This is Brent Hatley. For any of you who don't know him, I can't even imagine you don't know him because you listen to my show, ergo, you must know him. Former Howard Stern alumni. I wanted to talk to him about a couple of items from some comments that Shuli had made the other day on Who Are These Podcasts. And I was shocked at myself that I never even asked you these questions before because, as we call it, the Pelican Brief, when that was exposed, it seemed like such a insight into something that we normally never see from the Stern Show. And I really, really, really wanted your take on it. Take me back to when the tape of Howard doing this meeting was released. And so that's what Shuli was talking about, the fallout that happened afterwards. So yes. It was fun for us to hear Shuli talk about it. So I was wondering what your take was on it.
Yes. Well, everything Shuli said was, I listened very closely to what Shuli said. And I was at the meeting that he's talking about. And everything he said was accurate. It was absolutely accurate, and it was kind of weird and for me disappointing. Marcy I met for the first time when I got there in 2014. I'd never met her, never met her before. But Gary, I've known for many, many years. And radio is a small business. Like, we know each other. All of us know each other very, very well. So, it was just it was a disappointing meeting. I just thought I thought that it could have been handled like, hey, look, ignore this stuff and do your job. Like, that's all that needed to be said. Ignore this stuff and do your job, and that's it. And I just thought that the tone of it was a little disappointing to come from people that I'd known for that long.
But what did it turn into? Did it turn into a accusatory kind of thing, or what? How do you think it went down?
Generally speaking, yes, but not accusing anybody specifically.
So did they have thoughts about who they thought may have released it?
They may have. I have no idea. I really don't. I used to be in my office. I was next to the Sternthology people. My office was next to them. Shuli was in my office. And we had another guy in my office that nobody's ever heard of. And we worked a lot of stuff on the Whack Pack stuff a lot. And we worked a lot on, I had a lot to do. So, and I wasn't in the bullpen most of the time. I was on 37. I was only in the bullpen for the live show. Or if I had a meeting to go that I had to be in down there. I was on 37 a lot. So I didn't hear a lot of what they had going on and what they thought about it, but boy, they were pissed. I can tell you that. They were not happy.
It's a funny thing because when Shuli was mentioning it on the other show the other day, he said nobody knew that they were recording it, but they had to know. I mean, it was clearly.
Are you talking about the original?
Yes, the original. They had to know. It was on a tripod. You know, people walked by and kind of like waved at it. And there was always suspicion that there was a part 2 wherein Gary said, does this mean that I now report to Marcy? And in turn, it was like, yes, you do. And I was just wondering if Gary not really reporting into Howard anymore, but reporting into a Marcy who's, an acolyte of getting things done and had never had a job in radio before in her life. If that created like a weird dynamic amongst everybody.
A weird dynamic, I don't know. But yeah, I mean, absolutely. If you look at the organizational structure, Gary does have to answer to Marcy. That's true. However, Gary works a lot more with Jason and Will and stuff like that, and Marcy works more closely with the senior vice president of the channel. And it's just, and like you said, it's just for me personally, as somebody that dedicated my life to terrestrial radio, it's very sad to see terrestrial radio itself is like dying in front of our eyes. It's sad for me, but it's the way the world goes. But the sad part about radio, and Phil Hendry used to come on Bubba's show and talk about this, talk about even just the person that is in charge of programming it at SiriusXM had never been in radio before. And Phil Hendry was like, if any one of us walked onto the Miramax lot and said, we want to make a movie, they would say, goodbye, leave, thank you. They wouldn't even take a meeting with us. And radio, we're the only business. If I wanted to go coach the New Orleans Saints, they would say, no, you're a fan. Go buy a ticket and sit in the stands, buddy. And we're the only business that this is allowed to go on. It's really insane. And you can even broaden it out at SiriusXM and say, when you're looking at celebrities doing radio shows, and if you listen to any of them, most of them are just horrible because they've never done it before.
But do you not find it kind of curious, though, that, like you said, just a fan walking in, 50-60% of Howard's core staff were just fans. It's their only job ever, and it's their only job ever in radio.
Yeah,
so
it was that way for a
really,
long
when you
time.
think about it,
there's a few people there now that are behind the scenes that actually did come. There's one guy that came from Bill Maher and Saturday Night Live, and he is super talented. He really is. He's written sitcoms. There's a couple people there that have come from other broadcasting jobs.
I'm talking core. I'm talking Richard, Sal, JD. I mean, people that have never done anything other than this show ever.
Yeah. Like, I was one of the few people there that had radio experience outside of.
Right. And so look what happens. You leave, and how hard it is to actually find something that is substantial, that's going to make you money again and to kind of catch that lightning in a bottle again. Let alone these guys who have like 0.0 experience anywhere other than where they've been.
Yeah. Well, Richard is very specifically, Richard is super
100% talented.
Yeah. I
Absolutely.
mean, he's one of the best drummers ever. Like he could get a job in music if he wanted to. He just doesn't want to tour. He's got 2 kids. He doesn't want to be
2
on the
babies
road.
at home. Exactly.
Yeah.
I don't blame him.
Yeah. So, and there's no bigger Sal and Richard fan than me. I love both of those guys' comedy. I think they're both just hilarious. But your point is right. Like you could hire radio people, and not for very expensive, with a lot of experience that could probably give you a lot of different perspectives on what to do there. It's a weird thing in radio too. Like this weird thing of hiring people that don't have any experience is just, it's mind-boggling to me. Why they would do that.
So
and then out of here, you mentioned, like, for me, just a month and a half ago, there's a major radio station. I'll tell you the market, Los Angeles. Mm-hmm. And I turned down a job to be part of the morning show on this radio station. I never thought I would say I was going to turn down this job, but I'm kind of figuring out how to tell stories into the digital age. And what's going on is all these services, Hulu, Amazon, Netflix, all these places, they need content because they've got to keep subscribers. I've got a project that I'm working on with Bubba. I mean, he's talked about it on his show, so people can go listen to his show and you can hear what it's about. It's incredible. It's amazing. But things for film, TV, and take a long time. It is not like radio. There's a lot of layers. There's a lot of producers and coordinating producers.
That's right.
And
There's no instant gratification.
There's no instant gratification, and you write scripts and they get edited and looked over again 1,000 times and changed by people that don't know the story. And it's a little bit frustrating. I have another TV project that's really close to going into full production that I've been working on. So it's a different way of telling stories that I'm working on, and that is it's nuts. And I'm feeling my way through OnlyFans. I'm getting really good at video editing from editing porn, actually.
Do you put that on your sizzle reel when you try to go to Netflix?
Well, I'm not doing the editing when I go do that. Somebody else is going to do the editing. But just to get good at it from editing porn is you don't realize, like, you've got to cut around certain people. You've got to, these companies, they all need content. I was talking to a guy yesterday, and now I have a manager that's actually in the entertainment business, and was talking to them, and they said executives are begging for content. Because again, people binge watch these shows, now they want the next show, and they watch these documentaries, now they want the next one, so they've got to keep feeding the beast. So if you can find a good story that's compelling or funny or has a murder in it, the Bubble one I have has all that stuff in it, and you can sell the story to these places because they want it. They're like, yes, give it to us.
Absolutely. I mean, everything's in the pitch, and all it takes is one, and they will feed you.
Yeah,
they will feed you. It's curious because you probably don't listen anymore.
Yeah, just like Shuli said, they canceled my subscription.
Oh, did they? Both of his parents are actually in their waning days. And I don't know another single human being at the age of almost 70 whose parents are still alive. Both parents are still alive. And so that in itself is kind of a miracle. He's actually, the vitriol is coming out. Like, he just went into this horrible rant on Monday. Actually, it was so bad, I played it on my podcast, and Sirius took it down because he removed it from the rest of the broadcast.
I'm not familiar. I really am not. What was it about?
Oh my God, it was crazy. It was a crazy rant, like an insane person. He basically was saying, and I want to go, hey, Dad, you're such a genius and I'm a moron. Why are we in this position today? Why am I handling your medical needs? And he goes on about, his father fell and now he has to get a different table. And he says, how come this idiot is good enough to get a new table for you? How come the moron? You guys hit the lottery with me because I'm the moron who saved up for your retirement because you were too fucking stupid to save up for your own.
Oh.
Hey, Dad, maybe you should shut up and sit down and not me.
Oh, wow. Now, certainly I can identify with anger with the parents. I was raised in the 70s, so
yeah, no shit.
But back then it was more like if leave us alone. If you're breathing at dinner time, you're all right.
But there's no reason for a half a billionaire to rip his parents who had provided him with hours of content.
Yeah,
hours.
Well, but even more than that, when people get into their older age. My mom recently fell and broke her hip, and my parents were super stressed out, and it was not a comfortable time.
You're not gonna bitch about it on air and tell your parents that they're fucking morons not saving. The reality is, who saves with the thought that they'll be 97 years old and still kick? You know what I mean? It's like, it's not even something that's fathomable. And why, if you have so much money, would you even remotely bitch about it? It just boggles one's mind. And so we were kind of upset about it on the show, and then Sirius took it down.
I used to be pretty close with Sam Simon. And I would stay at his house when I would go out there. Ralph and I both were really friends with him. Great guy.
Did Sam Simon leave Ralph money in his will?
Not that I know of.
Okay.
And Sam's family was pretty, Sam had like this diamond ring sitting around the house, and I think he gave it to Pamela Anderson because he was good friends with her from the PETA stuff.
Sitting around.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, the money he made every month from The Simpsons in syndication was ridiculous.
I can't imagine.
I stayed at his house for a month in 2013, and every single week, then people come in and change out the entire sod on the entire property. It was like nothing to him. When he was married to Jennifer Tilly, I'm like, how much did you have to pay her when you got divorced? He said like $59 million. And I was like, wow, that's a lot of money. He was like, what are you gonna do? Like, I mean, his attitude was just like, I've got Simpsons money coming in. I've got Cheers money coming in. I don't care. It's okay. It's no big deal. He has a place, the Sam Simon Foundation, that he will not even accept a bag of dog food from. He takes rescued dogs and he trains them to help people that are deaf and help veterans with PTSD. He cared about the art that he created, and it made him rich. But
he did things directly.
Yes.
He did things that would directly affect something.
As
opposed to fucking kittens that are being raised in a mansion so that you can give it to a couple of your friends and take a photo op and put it on Instagram.
And I do love cats, and I love anybody that's going to help animals. I am an animal person. I am
I don't know. There's a big difference.
Sam left, I think, a third of his fortune to PETA. And he bought, if you saw the show Whale Wars, he bought a boat for them called the Sam Simon to go out there. Like, he really believed in the animal cause to the point. I mean, one time when I was there, I guess Cher was in a movie. She was in some movie where the elephant was tortured, and he was friends with her and her boyfriend. And he was out there protesting it for PETA, and like Sam got into an argument with them at the premiere of the movie because he was
kidding.
He was so into animals. He didn't care who you were. If you abused an animal, he was going to let you know about it. And then that's what I loved about Sam. And again, he used his money to directly help people or animals, and animals to help people. He was an amazing human being, and we lost an amazing human being to cancer.
Pretty sure he wouldn't bitch at his parents about how dare you still be fucking alive.
He didn't even talk about his parents. Like, I hung out with him lots of times. He didn't talk about his family, his parents, nothing.
Yeah, well, that's because he's not bereft of material anymore. I do want to swing full circle. Do you think any of the things that they talked about in that meeting ever came to fruition? Did they ever were there ever core teams to, make sure that they went out and got like the best guests for weekly shows? Everybody had to change how they dressed and not dress in like t-shirts and jeans anymore. People create fake Twitter accounts and telling people to follow them. And, oh my God, you should go on the Howard Stern show. And I was just wondering how much of that ever really came to fruition in terms of significant change to the show.
Well, the guest thing, they really went hard at the guest thing. They really did, and they got a lot of good guests, which is not really my thing. That's not what I enjoy in radio. Some people do, some people don't. I never have liked it with anybody.
Isn't a lot of that cross promotion though because they're at Sirius?
Some guests, some are so big they only do the really big ones. Will come in and only do Howard, or they'll do Howard and one other thing because they're so big. The guest team there, the booking team does a really good job of getting guests. They really do, if that's what you're into. And I'll share this with you. Like one of the first meetings I was in, where everybody was there, and I was asked, "What's wrong with the show?" And I was like, "There's too many guests." They were doing double guest day, and then
double guests. Yeah,
and they cut that down after that when I was like, there's just too many guests. Like the stuff that's being prepared by the staff is better. It is
than having
a guest on. It's just to me, and this is just my personal preference in radio. There's lots of people that I like and I'm fans of. I just don't care what they have to say about politics or their life or anything else.
I fast forward through all interviews. I have no interest whatsoever.
None. I'm interested in, I love the staff and the whack pack stuff. Like that's the stuff that I like because it's psychologically interesting.
How many people are in how many people would be on like a booking staff?
Oh my God. They have a guest team that's probably easily 8 to 10 people that works on guests.
You talking about Stern or Sirius?
Stern. No, Sirius has a whole department. They call it the talent.
A whole separate
department called the talent department, and their whole job is to book guests and walk celebrities when they get there through their different interviews and keep them on schedule. So,
and then does it ultimately come down to just like Howard having an interest in the person? Because I feel like there's been a lot of repeat guests lately, so he hasn't really gone out on a limb too much just in terms of people on the show.
He gets offered just about everybody.
Right, I would think.
And he gets offered just about everybody. He says no to a lot of people that you'd be surprised he says no to. It's basically who he's personally interested in and wants to talk to.
And that's it.
Yeah.
And then how many people would do the research for him in terms of the interview itself?
Oh my gosh, there's a whole team that does that. And the notes, they do an amazing job. Like any interviewer would be blown away the packet of information that you get because they do such a good job prepping him.
So how many people would you say?
I'd say at least 8. So
yeah, okay, that makes sense.
At least, and then sometimes, so when Metallica's coming, like I wasn't on that team, but Metallica's coming in, I would go to that meeting because that's somebody or something that I know about.
And you have a vested interest in it, and it's something that
I can say, oh, you might want to ask about this.
Right. Or here's a little tidbit I know about them.
Yeah.
Or, right.
The guest team there does a really good job to prep for a guest.
What do you think's going to happen now? Okay, so COVID, for all intents and purposes, is, done. Mask mandates are done. I know Howard keeps pushing this agenda because I really feel like he never wants to come back into the office. But do you think he'll actually go back?
Never,
right?
Never. He's got a situation that he he would have killed through this situation 15 years ago. Like,
agreed.
He's got a place in West Palm. He's got a place in Long Island. He's got a home studio, and he does, that's what Rush Limbaugh did that. He never came in.
Well, yeah, but Rush didn't really have a lot of guests and staff of...
Like, it was like George W. Bush one time. That was it.
Yeah, he doesn't have a staff of 70 trying to make, like, bits for him. I mean, he's just one guy talking.
Yeah.
That's totally different than a Howard.
Yeah,
it's funny to me that the people that he's interviewing are actually in Sirius Studios, and he's sitting at home.
Yeah, and I think... I obviously don't have any privy to his contract, but I'm pretty sure, knowing Don, he got that written into his contract that he never has to come back in. I think it was. My favorite shows are from 06 and 07, but even before that, I loved the early 90s.
Absolutely.
91,
The 90s?
92, 93. I was at the Mark and Brian funeral in LA.
Oh, you're kidding me.
I was there. I was in the Marine Corps, and you can imagine 18 to 22-year-old males.
Yeah, right.
In our squadron, every shop and on the flight line, everywhere you went, was listening to Howard because we thought it was the greatest thing ever.
Of course.
Because we were listening to Mark and Brian, and then July of 91, Howard comes on, and it was almost instantly we all switched from listening to Mark and Brian.
Of course you did, but I also think that the serious model of radio, even though radio is a dying thing, I think that the serious aspect of it is also a dying breed.
Yeah.
As cars turn into having, Wi-Fi and you just shove your freaking phone in.
Got this.
Exactly. That's all I got.
You got this. You don't need Sirius or regular radio for music. We can all create our own music channels on Spotify.
That's exactly right.
We don't need it for music at all.
We don't need you. We don't need you curating what I want to hear from like 80s alternative.
No.
I'm good with that. I got it.
Alternative, which I like some of that stuff too. Yes, I like the deep tracks on the album that you're not going to hear on the radio, and I want to program that myself. Or I can do that. The whole album.
That's exactly right. And if I want to hear podcasts, I can pretty much hear almost anything I want anywhere.
And I love listening to, right now, I love listening to Joe Rogan and Russell Brand. Like, those two are currently my favorite. Joe Rogan has real, unfiltered conversations with people that don't agree with him, with people that agree with him, people that halfway agree with him. And it's an interesting conversation. It really is. And then, and Russell Brand's, they're like anywhere from 10 to 20 minutes, and he focuses down on one topic. Mm-hmm. And it's really, really, really good because it's not left, it's not right. I'm not going to involve myself in magical thinking, and here's the actual facts. He does one that's really interesting about Pfizer, where he shows you that almost every TV show is sponsored by Pfizer. And how, if there's a criticism of Pfizer, it's not going to come from CNN or Fox News or MSNBC, because every show, and he just goes through and shows you every one, brought to you by Pfizer, brought to you by Pfizer. And it has an effect. It really does have an effect. When you work in terrestrial radio, you cannot talk bad about McDonald's. McDonald's is on the air at all times as a client. So you cannot talk bad about McDonald's. You will get fired for that. In terrestrial radio. For a while, it was McDonald's, Coca-Cola, and Budweiser were always on. So you just could not talk bad about those companies. So that's what Pfizer's doing, is they're funding CNN and Fox News and MSNBC, and nobody's going to say anything bad about them. And that's the elephant in the room that nobody wants to talk about. If somebody is paying for the production of a show, they're not going to get criticized. It's really interesting.
They're not going to shit where they eat, of course.
Yeah, it's really interesting. That's the way it works.
Let me ask you, so then when we're talking about commercials, like, why is it that Howard has always had the shittiest commercial sponsors? Like, why do you never hear, like, McDonald's or anything? I mean, the biggest I ever remember him having was on terrestrial radio, and that was Heineken. He's never had, like, big sponsors. Why do you think that is?
The easiest answer is advertising agencies. So advertising agencies are extra careful. If there's any controversy, like you get Howard and Bubba used to get put on no-buy lists. So we were on the no-buy list with McDonald's. So what Bubba and I did is we had a meeting with the advertising agency and the executives for McDonald's here in Tampa. We went to a steakhouse with them and sat down and talked with them. And we said, listen, we will not put your stuff next to anything controversial because it's millions of dollars in an ad buy when you're talking about morning radio. So we got ourselves off of the no-buy list for McDonald's. We got ourselves off of the no-buy list for Walmart. And but it takes work. You've got to go sit down and talk to those clients and assure them that you're not going to put them in the same light as the crazy stuff that you're doing. These huge ad agencies buy the spots, and they have lists of shows that are just no buy, never.
Interesting. All right, I'm swinging into something else. What happened to the reboot of like that Miserable Men thing that you guys were doing with Bob Levy and Julie and all that?
It's gotten so good. So it took a while for us to get it dialed in, and then we do it every Wednesday night at 7, and then we do a bonus show on Sundays at some point around 2 o'clock, anywhere from 2 to 5 on Sundays. We do a bonus show. It has gotten so good. Finally, it was a process. Because we weren't on the air every day. It takes a while when you're on the air if you're on the air every day for a few hours, it takes a while to get good. The way I would describe that show is it is very abstract, trippy, and funny. It is completely unfiltered. Bob Levy is completely unfiltered. And the rest of us are unfiltered in our ways. But it is really funny. We really go at each other hard, and we have these people that Julie's found that are kind of on the fringes of society. And,
what else is new?
And it's psychologically fascinating. It's trippy. It has gotten so good. It's the most fun I've had doing a show in a long time.
That's good to know. Okay, so is it on YouTube? Is it on... Where is it?
It's on Patreon only because we would get thrown off of YouTube. We would get thrown off of Twitch or anywhere else like that because it is completely unfiltered. You know, Bob's thoughts are not censored at all. So the things that he says would get us thrown off of any of those things. So we do it only on Patreon Wednesday nights at 7, and it is really, really good.
And what's the Patreon for that?
It's The Miserable Men Show. It's excellent. But it's trippy and bizarre. Sometimes you're like, what the fuck is going on here? But in a good way. And the best, I'm saying this in the most complimentary way. We go veer off into these weird topics. And
can it segue into being a podcast though? I mean, something that's...
Well, yes. So we have a great guy that produces the show and takes the stuff that's not going to pass muster, puts it into an audio podcast usually a week later. But sometimes seeing that is not the same as seeing the visuals of us.
I know.
And Shuli's gotten really good at running the show.
Okay.
And directing.
How's his like separate show doing?
It goes really good. He came to Tampa and I saw his stand up.
Didn't he? Oh, wasn't it like a sad picture photo op outside? It was a shitty. The weather's been so shitty down here.
During the day, the meet and greet day, but the show at night sold pretty well. It was okay. It was a lot of people,
and
there.
It was good.
It was really good. It was really good, and a lot of people that were there because people go to the comedy show for a night out. Sometimes they don't know who's playing.
They don't care who's playing.
It's a comedy show, and he's honed his jokes really well. They're not Howard Stern centric, and they're relatable to anybody. It's self-deprecating. He talks about him and his wife, and it's really funny. He has actually gotten really good at stand-up.
All right, if you say so. He's not my bestie. He doesn't want to talk to me. He won't come on my show, and I'm not really sure why. Well, maybe because we did an I Hate Julie show. That might be.
I mean,
that might be the problem.
I mean, people are brutal with me. As long as you don't actually show up to places where I'm relaxing and stalk me, I'm good. You can say whatever you want.
Yeah. Okay. So you agree with what Julie said about the Pelican Brief? They did kind of hardline you guys a little bit about what you may or may not know about it. And did they threaten people with if you're the one who fucked this up, we will make sure that you don't have a career in this business anymore?
I did hear that said. What Julie said was, I listened very closely to that segment. What Julie said, everything he said was accurate. Because if he said anything that wasn't, believe me, I want to tell you that Julie got something wrong. I would
No. And I believe what he said to be true as well.
Yeah.
I just wanted to know if there was anything, that you wanted to kind of tack onto it or add to the conversation.
It was just personally from my point of view, a disappointing conversation to have with people who are artistic people.
Because you're supposed to be trusted, or because
we're supposed to be trusted, and you're dealing with people that really are creative and artistic people. And creative and artistic people, in my experience, if they're dealt with like that, they don't respond that well. It makes you feel bad on the inside. And I'll admit this to you right here. I'm a sensitive person. And if I'm at a place where and I've got a track record of this. If I'm at a place where I'm being disrespected, like I can't create the art that I need to create, and I walk. So
yeah, shit happens.
Yeah.
Now I think I have to ask you this: did they pull everybody in one at a time, or was this like a group?
It was
meeting?
a group meeting. It was a big group meeting. Yeah.
So just walk me through that, just a tit hair of conversation about this.
Okay.
So they pull people in as a group of what? 20, 30, 50?
I would say it was at 20 to 30 at least. At least.
Okay. So they probably found out about it from when Stuttering John played it or something like that, because it was all over Reddit. It was kind of talking about it and like that. And then what happens?
Well, they had that meeting, and I went back to my office and sat there and was like, I just needed to take a minute and cool off, because I didn't want to. At that point, I was still a little bit new working for the Stern Show staff. I was still a little bit new. So I didn't want to say anything that I would regret. Historically in radio, I am a very vocal person, to the point where I've argued with general managers before, like in the hallway. I'm very vocal, but that one I wasn't. So I just went and sat in my office and kind of calmed myself down for a second, because I was so disappointed.
Did you guys talk about it afterwards?
Yeah, amongst us. Yeah, we did. We all had to talk about it, and everybody was bummed out. Like the staff was bummed out. Because
what
I have no idea
upset?
who leaked what, or I have no idea, but I don't think it was anybody in that room. It was Howard wasn't there, so I don't know if he was upset or not. I'm sure he probably was, but he wasn't there. This was the bosses, the senior management people there.
What did Jeremy Coleman do exactly? He's not just Stern Show, right?
Right now he is. He's the senior vice president of the Howard Stern channels, and I've known Jeremy for many, many, many years. He's a long-time program director in radio. He goes all the way back to WJFK and in Washington, D.C. He's been a programmer for a long time, and he, broadly speaking, is a really good program director. He does a lot. He does a lot, and he's one of the layers of edits before Howard even gets to see anything that goes through like this system of production. Like he's heavily involved, and he knows what he's talking about. He knows what he's doing.
Why would Jeremy think that, having people jerk off into a cum hat that Richard has to put on is something that should be sanctioned and passed on into. I mean, it's actually so vile, and
yeah, I'm the gross one.
Yeah, no, you know what? You're right. At least what you do is almost borderline normal. This is not normal. Jerking off into a hat so Richard Christie can put it on with dried splooge on it is not normal.
It sounds like a biohazard to me.
Well, yeah, they said it is. They said that it absolutely is, and so it's not something that they can actually really do on air, and it has to be sealed in like a sort of in order to transport it. They couldn't even take it on an airplane. I mean, it's a whole disgusting thing. I don't know what's going to come of it. It hasn't happened
gosh! Yet. On Bubba's show, I've done some pretty crazy stuff myself. So.
Yeah, I know.
But I don't think I'm trying to think. I don't think I've ever jerked off on Bubba's show. No, I have had a porn star take a dildo out of her and smack me across the face with it. and called me a thug.
Okay, but I'm okay with that because it's a woman. Please tell me it was a woman.
It was a woman, yeah. So, yeah, it was Dasha.
Exactly.
Her name was Dasha. But yeah.
You know, our thing always is, it's like, who is this show for anymore? Like, who is it for?
Yeah.
Who is it for?
Yeah, well, and for me, in my mind, and this is for Bubba's show and Howard's show. In my mind's eye, I always pictured a truck driver in a semi, gear jamming down I-10 in West Texas by himself. And,
absolutely.
And we're doing the show for that guy who needs to stay awake on the road.
All the time.
That's who I always pictured.
He wants to laugh. He wants the visual. He wants the mental image. Absolutely.
Yeah, because he's...
So who is the Stern Show for?
That's a question they're going to have to answer. You know, because in the projects that I'm working on now, the executives that are talking to me is like, who is the target audience? I'm like, well, males 25 to 54. That's who my target. That's who I'm going for with this and with this.
All right, sweetheart. Thank you so much for coming on. Welcome. I enjoyed talking to you. Tell Caitlin I said hi.
I will. Have a wonderful day and an interesting conversation. I'm here like anytime you want to want to chat. It's very interesting.
All right, awesome.
All right.
Thanks, Brent.
You're welcome.
All right, take care.
Bye-bye.
Bye. So there's our show for today. So everybody have a great day, and I'll see you later on. Bye. Thanks for hanging with us. Please join us for any discussion at RadioGunk.com in the forum section. Follow us on Instagram or Twitter at RadioGunk. And don't forget to like this and subscribe to us and hit that little bell so that you know when we're going to have a new show. Thanks. Both of his parents are actually in their waning days. And I don't know another single human being at the age of almost 70 whose parents are still alive. Both parents are still alive. And so that in itself is kind of a miracle. I think you froze again, just so you know. Shit. All right, I'm going to wait for Brent. 1731. Mr. Hatley, I don't know if you can hear me, but you are frozen. Which is shocking because it's usually me.
I have no idea what happened.
I lost him.
Weird.
Okay, let's wait, see if he comes back to us. Let's see. Anything to add on that?
Oh my God.
Pelican brief thing. See if I can swing it back around. Swing it back around. Swing it back around. Swing it back around.
Oh my God.
Okay, so anyway, so he's actually, the vitriol is coming out. Like, he just went into this horrible rant on Monday. Actually, it was so bad I played it on